Scotland is revered the world over for its incredible natural scenery. The best way to view it is by taking a hike through the country's wilderness, and there are so many great hiking paths to be found within the country that choosing one can be a bit of a chore. We've compiled a list of the best hikes in Scotland for those looking for excellent views of the country's natural scenery. So join Viewcation as we take a look at the best hikes in Scotland for breathtaking views. The Cape Wrath Trail. The first hike we'll look at is the Cape Wrath Trail. It takes tourists all the way to the top of Scotland's mainland, with the trail running for over 200 miles. The hike is considered to be one of the more challenging hikes in the country, but those who are up for the journey will find the terrain isn't all that difficult to manage. The difficulty of the hike comes predominantly from the vast length. It starts at Fort William and ends at a location that's called Cape Wrath. For the majority of hikers, it will take around 2 or 3 weeks to get from one point to the other, so come prepared. Cape Wrath itself sits on the northwest end of the UK's mainland. Along the hike, you'll go through memorable areas like Assynt and Knoydart, both of which offer beautiful scenery. These areas are so remote you might go a couple of days without passing a single person. At certain points, it's possible to go the entire hike without seeing another soul. The length and remoteness of the hike mean that it's not for everyone, but those who are up for a long and potentially isolated journey will be rewarded by the incredible views to be found along this trail. The Climb Up An Teallach. An Teallach sits on the northwest end of both Scotland and the UK's mainland. This hike might not take you several weeks like Cape Wrath Trail, but that doesn't mean it's easy. In fact, the hike up An Teallach is generally considered much more difficult, if a good deal shorter, than the Cape Wrath Trail. Those who don't have much experience scrambling up rocky ledges may want to give this hike a pass, but experienced hikers will find the journey has enough to offer to make its difficulty worthwhile. It's made out of sandstone and its peak sits at over 900 meters. Once you make it to the peak, you'll be treated with incredible views of the surrounding area as well as the mountain's incredible sandstone gullies. The Climb Up Liathach. Another popular mountain to hike up in Scotland is called Liathach. Liathach is a part of the mountain range that goes by the name Munros, with the Munros being the most popular mountain range in Scotland. While there are many Munros that are great mountains to hike, none of them offer the incredible views of Liathach. Once you get to the top, you'll be treated to some of the most stunning scenery that you can find anywhere. Liathach is generally considered the most beautiful Munros to climb, but the hike isn't that easy. Once again, there's a good deal of scrambling involved, which may make the hike a little too difficult for hikers who are just starting out. Still, the difficult journey is made worth it by the unprecedented views from the top. Before we tell you more, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Viewcation if you haven't already. The Aonach Eagach Ridgeline. This is another dangerous hike that'll take you to a significantly high elevation, which means there are some staggering views waiting for you at the top. Still, the difficulty of this hike once again means that it's not for everyone. The hike has a good deal of scrambling involved in it, but it's also made more dangerous by the fact that the terrain is often wet and slippery. Because of the Aonach Eagach Ridgeline's oftentimes dangerous conditions, hikers attempting to tackle the journey generally don't go it alone. It's best to take a friend with you on this one, and it's going to be a good idea if one or both of you have a good idea what you're doing. The hike is located in the village of Glencoe, and it's Glencoe and the surrounding area that offer the majority of the incredible views that you'll see along the hike's length. Again, this hike isn't for everyone, but those who are willing to take the journey will be greatly rewarded with the opportunity to view some of Scotland's greatest natural scenery. The Climb Up Pollaidh. Pollaidh is another mountain that makes a popular climb for tourists, though this one is on the smaller end. While the hike isn't difficult and the mountain can be said to be more of a hill than an actual mountain, that doesn't mean you won't be treated to some incredible views at the top. The views are just as impressive at the top of Pollaidh as they are in any mountain in Scotland, but it's a lot easier to get to. It's only a little over 600 meters high, and the hike up it can easily be made within the day. The hike is incredibly popular, not only for how easy it is to navigate its terrain, but also for how short it is compared to some of the more demanding hikes in Scotland. If you only have one day to hike, hiking up Pollaidh will offer you the chance to see sights comparable to those that can be found on hikes that take upwards of a week. It's no wonder the hike has become one of the most popular in all of Scotland, and most hikers will find it a breeze. The Rob Roy Way. The Rob Roy Way is a hiking trail named after a famous outlaw. That was Rob Roy McGregor, who's been the subject of legend for centuries. Those who want to follow in the famous outlaw's footsteps without getting on the wrong side of the law will want to check out the Rob Roy Way, which offers one of the best hikes in Scotland. It typically takes around a week to accomplish, meaning it's not quite as accessible as Pollaidh, but also not as much of a time investment as some of the other extravagant hikes we've covered. The Rob Roy Way runs nearly 100 miles, with the trail starting starting at Dryman and ending at Pitlochry. Both locations offer plenty of great natural scenery, and there's even more beautiful scenery to be found as you journey in between. Some of the many natural sights hikers will get the chance to see include a variety of lochs, rivers, and stunningly beautiful glens. The Southern Upland Way. For those who'd like to journey from one side of Scotland to the other, the Southern Upland Way may be your ticket. The hike has come to be known as the only officially designated coast-to-coast hiking trail in the UK, which certainly makes it stand out. As one can imagine based on that description, the hike isn't short. The Southern Upland Way goes on for well over 200 miles, and the majority of hikers require about 2 weeks to finish it. The hike is made even more difficult than it sounds when you take into consideration the fact that there are numerous peaks you have to tackle along its lengths. There are nearly 100 peaks along the hike, with some of them stretching upwards of 2,000 meters into the sky. The West Highland Way. Finally, let's take a look at the beautiful Scottish hiking trail called the West Highland Way. It's less than half the length of the Southern Upland Way, but its 100-mile journey isn't going to be a reasonable undertaking for anyone. The hike starts at Milngavie and ends at a location called Fort William. In Fort William, you'll find a mountain called Ben Nevis, which is considered the tallest mountain in the entirety of the UK. Once you get to the end of the West Highland Trail, you can either choose to soak in the views of this gorgeous large mountain or continue your journey by traveling up its length. Now it's time to hear from you. Have you ever hiked in Scotland? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Viewcation if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.